Hi everyone, and welcome back to Girls on Deck. I'm Hannah Jo, and with me, as always, will be my lovely co-host, Kayla Burge. Now, Kayla tried to avoid it last week, but the truth of the matter is her Dodgers didn't make it to the World Series. But that can't stop us from talking about it. Emily Doherty will be with us to talk about the Braves still leading the World Series and the specifics of last night's game. And later on, we'll try to cheer up Kayla again by talking NFL and her Dolphins. Emphasis on the word try. But we'll go over some of the primetime games from this past week with our friend Johan Blanco. Girls on Deck starts now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Welcome back. Now, before we start talking World Series, I want to introduce our guest for this segment. She started out with HTFN earlier this semester and has been working behind the scenes, but today is her on-air debut with us. Emily, how are you doing today?
Kayla, Hannah Jo, thank you so much for having me on today. I am doing great and cannot wait to talk about the MLB. Emily, we're so happy to have this actually be Girls on Deck, so we're really, really happy to have you here. I think everyone here is pretty happy about the Braves leading the World Series so far over the Houston Astros. Emily, are you a Braves fan? I'm actually a Yankees fan because my dad's from Long Island, so the Astros getting curb stomped is great to watch. Curb stomped? Well, how do you feel about the game last night then? The Astros won last night, but their pitching was not good. Valdez gave up 5 and their bullpen carried them. I don't know if I can trust the Houston bullpen over all the weapons that the Braves have. That's valid. Kayla, I know they beat out your Dodgers to make the World Series, but are you happy that they are still winning out over the Astros so far?
Yeah, well, absolutely. The Braves deserved it, honestly, and when they won against the Dodgers, they deserved it, and I think they do so now. I am a little nervous for them that they're losing that momentum that the Astros could be getting to them, but if of the two teams, I think the Braves have shown that they deserve to be there and that they can do it. I mean, they have insane hitting power. Their pitching has kept up, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let's get into Sunday night's Halloween game. Emily, would you mind recapping it for us?
I can definitely do that. The most exciting part of the game for me was the first inning, a grand slam hit by Adam Duvall. It was the first time a grand slam had been hit in the first inning of the World Series since 1960. The Astros kept up, though. They didn't have any big home runs like our favorite MVP contender, Freddie Freeman, who took the lead for the Braves for a short time. Sadly, they didn't have to. With the amount of RBIs the Astros got, it was more than enough for them to win the game. Correa was the one to finish it off and make the score 9-5, but Maldonado was a standout, getting 3 RBIs. Ladies, this wasn't really what I was expecting, to be honest. Going into Game 5, I thought the Braves were going to end it at home, but they just didn't have it. After the grand slam, it felt like they tried to cruise and couldn't get it together enough to win. What were your guys' thoughts going into Game 5? I'm with you there. I thought this was going to be the last game last night. I was fully ready to say today here on the show that the Astros lost and the Braves won and we were all going to be celebrating, but that's just not what happened. And yeah, Kayla, like you said, their hitting has been strong. I do think they're the better team, but what did you think about the game last night? What did you think before the game started, I should say?
Right. I agree. I thought it was the Braves to win. You know, they were on the momentum. They had it. They seemed to have everything, and, you know, they cracked under pressure. We saw an uncharacteristic error from Dansby Swanson last night, so hopefully stuff like that doesn't happen again. I think they could win in this next game, which I believe is Tuesday. So yeah, hopefully they kind of get back on their feet and could win the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the Braves starting pitcher. I was really surprised to hear about this. Tucker Davidson, pitching for the Braves for the first time since June. And there is no way that he has ever been in front of this big of a crowd, this fired up of a crowd as it was in Atlanta. What did you think of Tucker Davidson last night, Emily? There was so much pressure on Tucker Davidson. For someone who's never been close to that spot ever, it was huge that he only gave up two through innings. It wasn't the greatest of all time playoffs or anything, but he gave them a shot to win with the Braves bullpen. Yeah, what did you think, Kayla?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hand it to them. The guy hasn't played since June, and then he has to go into the biggest game. Do I think it was the type of pitchers obviously the Braves needed in that time? Absolutely not. But clearly they were running out of options. He was one. So I think he did pretty good for what he was given. He had a 3.60 ERA before he went out in June. So you can't expect him to be this all-star pitcher coming in for the first time in the World Series. So I think he did good for the circumstances.
No, definitely. But speaking of pitchers here, I learned this actually the other day. Is it the AL where the pitchers don't have to bat? So, okay, here we are at the NL Stadium for the Braves. So that means that the pitchers do have to bat. So what did we think about that? Did it kind of change things for, people like Valdez and Graveman to step up to the plate here and, try to swing at a ball?
I mean, I think, Emily, I want to toss that to you actually.
Yeah, pitchers hitting is kind of cool, but they're not as good as a whole. I don't really care which way the MLB wants to go with the DH, but there's definitely pros and cons.
Kayla?
No, I was going to say, I think, anytime a pitcher has to hit, it's not going to be, unless you're Shohei Ohtani, you're not going to see this pitcher hitting dingers out of the park. It's just not going to happen. So the Astros won anyway, so I really don't think it affected them that much.
Well, Kayla, where did it seem to fall apart for you last night for the Braves?
Yeah, I think it was in the beginning, they all of a sudden they're in, 4 runs within the first 2 innings, and then you kind of saw a decline. They only got 1 more after that for the entire game. So I think the Astros just kind of got to them. And again, that error for Dansby Swanson to me is where it started kind of going downhill from there.
Yeah. Well, Emily, what do you think they need to change or keep going into Game 6?
If the Braves want to win Game 6, they need the pitching to step it up. Max Fried needs to throw better than he actually did to get through some innings to give the relievers a break. They are coming off of an off day, so they'll be well rested enough to get a good spot to win.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they've kind of got a day off here. Of course, our viewers will be watching this on Tuesday, so the game will be tonight for you guys, but for us, it's their day off. How do you think that will affect things for that Tuesday game, Kayla?
I think, kind of get a chance to refresh, get back into it. So I hope for the Braves' sake that's what kind of lights a fire under them. And they're like, we can't let this go to a Game 7. They had a 2-game advantage, and now they're going to lose that again. So I hope they kind of light that fire under them, get back in the momentum. But that is about all the time we have for MLB this week. Stay with us to see Johan Blanco talk about the NFL and, of course, the Miami Dolphins.
Why? Because I am a New York Giants fan and I want my first pick of the week to be my team. I see an upset for the New York Giants this Sunday. Bet your entire savings, and I'm telling you right now, they're gonna win. I don't care what you say. It's gonna happen.
I'm going to go Yankees 4-1. I think Garrett Cole's going to give them 7 shutout. It's Garrett Cole. I trust him in this type of situation.
2-1 pitch.
The Yankees lost to Boston in the wild card game, and I told Johnny if my boys lose, I'd come on the show in this.
I have to go with the Raiders, I think, for this one. I don't see them losing.
Welcome back. It is now time for our primetime picks of the week, the best segment. I'm currently doing awful, standing at 16-10, Oklahoma State and Texas. I'm going Texas 35-27.
UCF keeps the 30 points per game streak alive. I'm going to go 35-10. UCF wins.
Welcome back. Well, NFL Primetime finally gave us the defeat of Kyler Murray in the Arizona Cardinals, which I actually wasn't super happy to see. But before we get into all that, I want to introduce our guest for this segment, our good friend and co-host of HGF Bets, Johan Blanco. Johan, tell us how you're feeling today.
I'm feeling really good. I'm glad to be on this show today.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. I love having fellow hosts of different shows on to talk about different sports. So that being said, let's launch right into last Monday night's game, the Seahawks versus the Saints. It was another rainy night for football, but in Seattle, that's not much of a surprise. In for Russell Wilson, who is still recovering with a finger injury, was Geno Smith, and he came out swinging. Just a few minutes into the game, he threw a deep pass to DK Metcalf, who sprinted down the sideline and into the end zone for the first touchdown of the game. It counted as an 84-yard reception. It wasn't until a field goal and a whole 2 quarters later that the Saints were able to respond with a touchdown of their own. Even though they were able to get it to Alvin Kamara in the end zone, not much changed as we got into the 4th quarter. With a little over a minute left, it was the Seahawks' last chance to stay in the game. Smith was under pressure in the Saints' end zone and aired it out, and Demario Davis was so close to intercepting. After playing great all game, he was definitely upset that he didn't get that last interception to perfectly cap it off, but it didn't really matter at the end of the day. The Saints won 13-10. So let's talk about that Demario Davis guy for a second. He would not let up on Geno Smith all night. Got 10 solo tackles, 2 sacks, and broke up a pass. Johan, how vital was he to the Saints defense and to their team as a whole on Monday?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, he had 10 total tackles, 7 of them were solo tackles. He had 2 sacks. He applied pressure to Geno Smith very well, which for Geno Smith, he's always frantic in the pocket and he always, starts to panic. So he was really vital in a very defensive game on Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Kayla, I'm curious, I'm wondering about Alvin Kamara. Do you think his back is still hurting from carrying the Saints team on Monday night?
For the Saints' sake, I hope not, because they're going to need him next week and the week after that. I mean, he was the running back they needed that night. I mean, I believe he touched the ball for 50% of the time he played. So, I mean, he did an absolute phenomenal job.
Yeah, he did. Well, Johan, do you think it's too predictable to be going to Kamara very, very often, like Kayla said, almost 50% of the time? And do you think they kind of learned their lesson from yesterday's game?
I don't really think so. I mean, over the course of his career, Alvin Kamara has been that go-to guy, whether it's the running game or the passing game. He's known as a dual-threat running back. And especially last Monday night when the Seahawks secondary was, covering their top 2 receivers, they held their top 2 receivers to only around 40 yards. They needed to dump Kamara the ball as much time as he could because the other receivers were just not getting open.
Yeah, well, and I guess if it's anyone, it's Kamara, because even though they were going to him every single time, it seemed like to me anyway, he was still getting the first downs. I mean, he was still running great, and, he was being as unpredictable as possible, even though they were giving him the ball a lot. I seem to remember last year, I think it was, when Drew Brees was still over there and Taysom Hill was still involved, which of course he's still out with a concussion right now. It seemed like a lot more guys were getting touches on the ball. But do you think Taysom Hill has anything to do with that, or do you think that it's just kind of their game plan is just kind of to have Jameis Winston, Kamara, and then besides that, just a few deep passes to other receivers?
I definitely think that their whole game plan is just to get everyone the ball. I mean, if you see it, there's not one person that's really standing out throughout all these games. They're really getting everyone from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 3, especially to the tight ends of the ball, just because there's not really a go-to guy with Michael Thomas still out and stuff like that. So without Alvin Kamara, they're still trying to get everyone involved and put themselves in the best position to win.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kayla, did you have any last thoughts on this Monday night game?
No, but I do want to jump into Thursday night's game. It was one of the I was most excited to talk about, the Packers versus the Cardinals. Now, last week before the show, I heard Hannah Jo talking about how if any team could end the Cardinals' undefeated streak, it would be the Packers. And she was right. Let's recap some of the bigger plays of the game. In the first quarter, running back Chase Edmonds took a snap from center, ran 11 yards into the end zones to get the Cardinals on the board after the teams had kept one another quiet for the first few drives. And it went back and forth pretty steadily the whole game. But when it got to the first quarter, Aaron Rodgers found Randall Cobb in the end zone to extend the Packers' lead. The Cardinals managed to stay in it, and after a pretty impressive drive down the field, Kyler Murray was picked off by Rasul Douglas. Murray was aiming for A.J. Green in the end zone, but Douglas juggled the ball and pulled it in for a catch. That sealed the deal for the Packers with only a second left in the game. And the Cardinals were no longer undefeated. Johan, I'm interested to hear what your pick was going into this game. Did you expect it to be as close as it was?
I definitely expected it to be a close one since just because there were like the top 2 teams in the NFC. But I was really rooting for the Cardinals. I grew up in Arizona for a long time, so I wanted them to keep that undefeated streak alive. But I'm not surprised that the Packers won. They've been on a roll since their Week 1 loss. So honestly, I really wasn't surprised about the outcome.
Yeah, going into this game, I mean, you said it. I thought that if any team could end the Cardinals' undefeated streak, it was the Packers. Sure enough, they did it. There was a little bit of me that was holding out hope. I still wanted the Cardinals to win, but, Kyler Murray wasn't looking like himself, especially in the first half. And, Johan, I wanted to ask you about that. Notably, his deep passing game just wasn't looking as good as it usually does. And I noticed that he had some tape on his right pinky. Do you think that had anything to do with it? Do you think there were other factors affecting his deep passes?
I think the injury could have had effect, but I think the Packers put a lot of pressure on Kyler Murray in the beginning of the game, and it kind of reminded me back to 2019 in his rookie year, where most of the games that Kyler Murray played, he started off slow, but then in the second half he started to pick it up and he started to make mid-game adjustments.
Yeah, Kayla, what did you think about Kyler Murray? Do you think that he had a pep talk at halftime that really kind of got himself together?
Probably. I mean, I would assume so. He growing up against Aaron Rodgers, and he's still a young quarterback, so it always brings pressure. And I think in the end, the defense on the Packers just got to him, and he couldn't keep up.
Yeah, and that was my hypothesis there, was that, it's a lot of pressure when you win the game, and then you win the next game, and then you win, and you just keep winning. And every game, they're like, oh, is this going to be the one? Is this going to be the one? And I think especially this game was one that they were like, this could be it. And I think that was on Kyler Murray's mind. But speaking about quarterbacks under pressure,
I was
talk
going
about.
to
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're going to talk about undefeated season, let's talk about the 72 Dolphins, because that was the last time they were ever worth talking about. But we're going to do it today. Now, Johan, I have some thoughts. There's a lot of talk around the Dolphins right now. Is Tua good? Should we get him out? Now, is Deshaun Watson in the picture? What do you think of this kind of whole debacle surrounding the Dolphins?
Well, I wouldn't really give up on Tua just yet. I mean, he's still fairly young, and he's shown a little bit of promise in his 2 seasons. The only thing is, the Dolphins organization has not put him in a great position to win. I mean, they haven't put good pieces around him in terms of offensive protection, in terms of, coaching staff. I mean, Brian Flores is trying to do his best, but let's be honest, it's a mess. The whole organization's a mess right now. So I wouldn't put the full blunt of the blame on Tua. Like this past draft, they drafted Jalen Waddle. They should have drafted Penei Sewell to get some offensive line protection for him. So it really isn't Tua's fault.
No, it's not. And that's what I was going to say too. I mean, I've really liked Tua from the beginning. I don't know if you guys have. I know Kayla has been a Dolphins fan and has been watching him since that draft. But I feel like it's so soon to say that he's not the guy when he's barely even had a chance. He was out for, I think, 3 games with a rib injury this season, and he's barely had a chance. And like you said, Johan, it's not like his organization is together at all. So why would they pin it on him? I don't know.
That is my issue with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
They love to blame the quarterback in every scenario where the rest of them are messed up.
Right.
So it's the same thing with Ryan Tannehill. Mind you, we gave him a lot of chances and he didn't come through. It was time for that to end, right? But we're doing the same thing with Tua, but we're doing it a little too early in my opinion. Give him the rest of the season, see what he does. He's still very young, coming off injury, he still has a lot to improve. Do I think he's going to be this top quarterback? No, I don't, but I think we don't have a lot of other options right now, and I don't think Deshaun Watson, we'll get into that pretty soon, but I don't think that's the option as well. I think, it's front office issues, it's offensive line issues, it's a lot of other issues other than just a quarterback, and they love to blame it on that player.
Well, so Johan and Kayla, let's get in a time machine. Let's go back to the 2020 draft, and Kayla, especially you as a Dolphins fan. Did Tua look like he was going to be the guy to you at that point?
I think so, and I think a lot of it too was that, we passed up on Drew Brees and he was injured, and look what happened. I think it was essentially, I don't know. I thought Tua was going to be the guy. I was happy to take him then. I'm still not giving up on him, so I don't want to say I regret or the Dolphins should regret that decision. But Johan, what did you think?
I think they should have drafted Tua because, for the past 2 years, it was always tank for Tua. That's all I heard from Dolphins fans is tank from Tua, tank from Tua. But remember, he's coming off a hip injury in college, and, hip injuries are really hard to recover from. Your mobility is pretty much shot at that point. Just look at Isaiah Thomas in NBA. He's never been the same. So the thing is, the Dolphins had to put some protection in him so that way he can cover much better. But it hasn't been the case so far.
Okay, so before we talk about trade rumors, Deshaun Watson and all that jazz, Let's also travel a little year forward back in our time machine here. The 2021 draft. The Dolphins traded with the 49ers. The 49ers got the 3rd pick. And now we're talking about they got Jalen Waddle, which is still amazing, but we missed out on Jamar Chase and, also didn't get Kyle Pitts. Was that worth it? Was that trade worth it to not get someone like Jamar Chase, who we're seeing thriving with the Cincinnati Bengals?
I think when it comes to Dolphins picks, somehow they're going to mess it up and they're going to pick the player that they didn't need to pick.
That's so
The
sad.
stats could all be there, everything could be there. It's not going to work out. Or the Dolphins aren't going to use them correctly, which is what I think happens. So we've seen this happen. We've seen these players that were like, oh, they're bust, and then now Ryan Tannehill's doing great with the Tennessee Titans.
Yes, ma'am.
So I really do not know. Johan, what do you think?
I think that the Dolphins got their guy. Obviously, that's why they picked him, and I think it adds to the receiving core. But again, I wanted them to pick Penei Sewell. They need some protection for Tua. Like if that's your quarterback for the future, then do everything in your power to make sure that you have him for a long period of time.
Yeah, that's definitely valid. And I remember the conversation was, were the Bengals going to get Sewell? And I thought they were, because I thought they wanted to, protect Joe Burrow.
Right.
But I mean, they proved us all wrong with, Jamar Chase is just thriving, like I said. And yeah, Kayla, didn't you say that you had a Tannehill jersey?
Yeah, I was telling Hannah before, I was like, I got a Tannehill jersey for Christmas, and then he was traded the next season.
The
Kayla, you
next
have to burn it.
season? That's a sad day.
So yeah,
I'm so sorry to hear
I was
about
a
that.
fan. I'm happy to see him doing well, but again, it's the story of the Dolphins. What are
Burn
you
that
gonna do?
jersey.
What? You
Burn
want
the
it?
jersey.
Yeah, it's in the back of my closet. If anyone wants it, I don't know what you're gonna do with it, but I'll be giving it out for free.
Well, okay, so Ryan Tannehill is doing great, but I got to give you a little piece of news here on HDF. Derrick Henry's out with a foot injury. So we don't know, Derrick Henry can make anyone look good. And I do think Ryan Tannehill is doing better just because he's playing with a better offense than he's ever played with, in my opinion. But Derrick Henry is a huge part of that offense. So we will see how it goes moving forward. But trade deadline is today for our viewers at 4 p.m. Kayla, is Deshaun Watson going to Miami?
I hope not. Like, that's all I could say is I hope not. Why do we feel the need to get these veteran quarterbacks, stick them for a year, and then, oh, wait, they suck again, let's not get them, regardless of the scandal? Because, mind you, that is huge. Why would you want someone like that on your team, in any sport? It boggles my mind. Like, I sincerely thought it was a joke in the beginning. I was like, no. Oh, okay, no, we're actually thinking about this. We're actually thinking about taking a man who should not ever play in the NFL again, in my opinion. So,
yes.
Johan, I want to hear your thoughts about this. Do you think trading for Deshaun Watson is worth it?
Listen, Deshaun Watson is a great talent. He was, before all these allegations, he was an elite quarterback. But we can't make exceptions due to talent. Look what we did with Josh Gordon. Look what happened with Justin Blackmon. All these guys that had legal trouble, they got suspended indefinitely. And there shouldn't be an exception if the guy is going to impact your team on the field, because you have to be a star out the field as well as on the field.
Well, I also agree with you, Kayla. Deshaun Watson, I mean, I know that we can try to look past the scandal, but as we're saying, the organization of the Miami Dolphins is in disarray, and what it doesn't need is Deshaun Watson. And especially the NFL doesn't need to say, hey, look, this guy who has 22 allegations against him can be here, especially when they made the good move of kind of showing John Gruden the door. Like, we got to keep that streak going there, which, a bunch of stuff is going to come out anyway.
And I find it hard to believe that every player on the Dolphins is going to be welcoming him with open arms.
Oh,
and
no.
isn't team dynamic everything? So how
And
does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a slap into his face, I think, to bring Deshaun Watson in there. And I think it's a slap to his face because we don't even know if he'd be able to play if they did bring him. And then it's like all for nothing. Johan, what do you think about that?
I think it makes no sense to bring in Deshaun Watson because you're giving up on Tua so fast. Like, let's not forget, he's only in his second season. Why are you giving up to him? And even before the allegations came out, they were already trying to trade Deshaun Watson for Tua in the offseason. So it looked like they were trying to plan this all along. But I don't understand what the thought process is to bring a toxic energy like that into the locker room when all it's going to do is isolate Deshaun Watson from the team even more and crumble the organization as a whole.
Right, and before the scandals came out about Deshaun Watson, let's not forget that he had a little bit of an attitude issue too. He was like, "Yeah, screw the Texans, I don't want to be."
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
right. That's right.
And then in timing, that all came out. So why it boggles my mind. It truly does.
And no offense, Kayla, like if Deshaun Watson did that in Houston, what do you think he's gonna do in Miami?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right, Johan. I have no answer for that. As a Dolphins fan, I'm just praying that 4 p.m. goes by and we hear nothing. It's done.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was a rumor. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a rumor. Yeah, I'll be praying for that
Right.
with you. Yeah. I just feel like, I mean, to sum all of this up, offensive line isn't good. Organization isn't good. We're not using Jalen Waddle to the best of his ability, in my opinion. And, you know, that's all I've got to say about that. Kayla, any last thoughts about the Dolphins before we go?
I hope maybe in sooner time that we can maybe get something going. But, you know, it's the Dolphins continue to disappoint every fan they've ever had since '72. That was the last time that anyone could have been hopeful, Dolphins fan. But since we've got a little time left, let's talk about our picks for next week's games. Now, Hannah Jo, Monday Night Football, you guys will hear the outcome of this, but let's just say Giants versus the Chiefs. Hannah Jo, who's your pick?
Well, Johan, I know you're a Giants fan, but keep in mind, since this show airs on Tuesday, our viewers will know if you have a really bad take. So don't go too crazy. I want to hear your pick first.
Bet your entire savings the Giants are gonna win. The Chiefs are struggling. Bet your entire savings.
You know what, Johan? I'm going to bet my entire savings. I think you're right. I don't think the Chiefs have it. You know, guys, I had a dream. This is funny. I had a dream that my mom told me that the Chiefs lost to a women's NFL team. And I believed it. So, and I mean, that's pretty much equivalent to the Giants.
I don't know about putting all your life savings in that. Maybe like
Do it.
$10, Johan, but I still think the Chiefs have a very good outcome.
Johan, do you have any life savings left?
I mean, I bet it on the Raiders, so I doubled my money.
Okay, so yeah, a little more to spare, I guess. All right, so next up, Thursday night, another New York team, Jets going up against the Colts. Hannah Jo, who's your pick?
Colts.
Johan?
Jets, just kidding, Colts.
Anyone would be silly to say the Jets. Anyways, and finally, Sunday night, LA Rams go up against the Tennessee Titans. Hannah Jo?
Yeah, without Derrick Henry, no, it's the Rams. What do you think, Johan?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Titans before Derrick
Yeah.
Henry got hurt, but it's the Rams. Not gonna lie.
Well, guys, that is all the time we have for Girls on Deck. Kayla, any last words for us?
That's it. I was just going to say the Rams too, so nothing different. But thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will be back next week.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.